Well, it's time for the Tactics Meeting podcast, the program where we talk to subject matter experts about response tactics and technology. And today, joining me is my good friend, Patrick Gallagher, Executive Director of the Marine Exchange of Puget Sound, here on a Sunday morning. Morning, Patrick. Welcome.
Morning, Dan. Yep, Sunday morning, raining again. My yard is like a muddy wasteland. So how are you doing?
My yard is not all that different, right? My office is all torn up too. I had new flooring put in, and so after we record this episode, I have to go back to cutting and fitting baseboard. That's my Sunday plan.
That's a good, before we started recording, I sort of judged my life the way it's going on, my problems. And the more high-end niche problems I have, the better I feel. So like when I get upset about like my garbage cans or, judging someone for their recycling habits or something, I feel like things are going pretty well. So, if
those are what Taylor Swift call them? Champagne problems.
champagne problems, yeah.
Yeah.
So the flooring baseboards, you're crushing it.
Oh yeah. That's good. It's good. It's good. And it was old carpet from when we first moved into the house. It was time for that floor to go.
Good. And it went. Good for you.
But today we're going to talk about response and how the Marine Exchange supports response in the Pacific Northwest, and for me specifically supports response provided by the Washington State Maritime Cooperative. As you know, the Marine Exchange has been the primary on-call watchstander and administrator for WSMC since WSMC was the Washington State Maritime Commission way back in 1991. So it's really hard to separate WSMC from the Marine Exchange. We're almost the same entity.
Yeah, no, that's true. So response roles for WSMC, you already said it, but the 24/7 watch, that's there's lots of watch floors throughout the state. There's lots of people performing at least some of that role, but specific to WSMC, we're on the hook for taking those calls if there is any type of spill or incident that is reportable. Then we're right there, and they've got your database open to where they'll collect the information and get things moving. You all always have incident commander on duty, and obviously we have that list, and if anything happens, then we will start collecting the information, push it out to the incident commander that's on call, and and then that kind of ignites your world, and you all start activating the machine that's going to get resources rolling in the right direction.
Doesn't the Marine Exchange provide a similar role to some other organizations? Maybe not like a on-call response role, but you're there. They're kind of your front end, for a lack of a better term.
Yeah. Well, we're front end, and we also do a lot of backing up. So I think a lot of people don't know that we've backed up the Coast Guard vessel traffic service several times, and it's always when it's the most inopportune. So that a lot of people don't know the VTS. They do have a generator, but their technology is aging. They do run into some problems because I'll just be honest. And now that I'm not actually in the Coast Guard, I can say pretty much what I want about the Coast Guard is I don't think they're adequately resourced. The VTS, I don't think that's a controversial statement at all. But what ends up happening is if they go down, they need to have a continuity of operations protocol, and we've helped with that in the past. Um, and so that's a huge function, even though it's not nearly as good as what the VTS can provide. At least it's something, and they can keep it running until they're able to get their own systems back online. So that's a big one. We also play a role, not an operational role, but an administrative and an awareness role, communications role with the emergency response towing vessel in Nia Bay. So whenever that is activated for whatever reason that we don't adjudicate at all, but once that tug gets activated and hired, we'll get a notification and then we will help move that notification along. And then we'll also be aware of any backfill and we can help with that process as well. So there is a process in place. It's very dynamic. It's very case dependent with the ERTV. And what we do is help with that process along with a bunch of other people. But it's that one's highly contextual. Like that is absolutely case by case. So um, that's probably what you're referring to. I'd say Coast Guard continuity of operations and ERTV. Otherwise, it's more commercial, not really response related, but we'll reach in to help with logistics and make connections with industry. If something goes wrong or if there's something missing, then we can step in and kind of get that chain, back on track and moving.
Oh, for the continuity of operations, I mean, what you do have, I think, is a better AIS receiver network than
Yeah, I
even the
agree.
Coast Guard has. So, I mean, it's great coverage. Anybody wants to check it out, they can go to the WSMC website, WSMCOOP.org, and click the AIS button. We're displaying in a limited fashion the actual feed that comes from Marine Exchange of Puget Sound. If you wanted more functionality, you can subscribe to the Marine Exchange's AIS service, but this is a limited look at the real deal of the feed that's coming, and that provides a great asset to the Coast Guard. I mean, you
Yeah,
don't have access to their radar displays, so they don't
right.
get that, but they get access to the AIS feed, they get access to the radio network and the repeaters, and so they can do their job from there if they need to. And you have a backup generator too, which
Hmm.
is which is which is great. And you're up there on the hill, which means flooding is never going to be
Right.
an issue. During Hurricane Katrina, there's a great book called 5 Days at Memorial about Memorial Hospital. Have you read it? I think it became a Netflix special.
5 days at Memorial.
Yeah, it's super interesting. So Memorial Hospital in New Orleans, I
Yeah.
was there forever, and during hurricanes, the family members of staff, even pets, would come there to shelter. That was there, and everybody was kind of a party. Um, and
Wow.
they had an emergency generator, and it was on like the second floor, so they figured it was in good shape. And then the levee broke, and they had all that flooding, and water flooded down into the parking garage. And what they didn't realize is, yeah, the generator was up high, but the transfer circuitry was down in the parking garage. And as soon as it got
Wow.
flooded, the generator went. And as soon as the generator went, the air conditioning went, oxygen circulation for patients, the whole thing, right? The whole thing. And it went downhill from there. And the reason I was just thinking about that is because at least, you're way up there, um, at the base of Queen Anne Hill, where that generator, even though it's on the ground level, is never going to get flooded out.
No, yeah, it's high and dry. That, yeah, that's, I don't know when or who decided to install that thing, but it's, man, I forget. It's like we have enough fuel, I want to say for 10 days. We test it regularly. That's a big deal for us. And then we've got a whole dedicated circuit just to the generator. Um, we actually just did a bunch of maintenance last year on it. Our ops manager, Neil, that kept him busy for a little while. So that, yeah, with that, what happens here every year, bomb cyclones and wind events, and of course the big one, Cascadia, um, which who knows what's, I mean, we can talk about that if you want, but that's probably a whole other thing. But it's definitely valuable for us. It's a big deal, and we keep that thing in good shape and make sure it's running and gonna be reliable for us. Um, were you there for Katrina? Did we ever talk about this? Did you respond to that?
I I responded only in the aftermath of
Mm.
Katrina. I didn't go down. I went down and I was in Leeville, Louisiana.
Oh,
This is when I was an MSRC supervisor.
oh,
And I
okay.
went down to Leeville, Louisiana, which is kind of on the way to Fouchon. And I was the night shift supervisor doing decon on a bunch of the oil barges that had been used for recovery. Pretty
Uh-huh.
unglamorous thing. I was staying in a trailer in the parking lot of the convention center in Holma, and I would drive every day down to Leeville. And the only restaurant that was open between Holma and Leeville was this McDonald's, and everybody was going there, and the place was just trashed. If
Really?
you went to use their restroom, you felt like you needed to go through decon.
Wow.
It was really bad, but
But
it was open, and you could
yeah,
get, a Diet Coke and a
right, right.
burger. So
Wow. Um, but you were in, I mean, you're incident management team, you're in ICS tempo that whole time.
yeah,
Okay. Wow, interesting. Yeah, that aftermath, I've heard story. I wasn't involved with that at all, but a lot of my friends were, and I mean, the aftermath and the cleanup, I mean, it lasted, gosh, for forever. They were in that stance for I don't even know how long, over a year, I believe. So that's pretty much from what I understand and have heard from other friends is that's where we sort of shifted. We, the Coast Guard, we adopting uh, this type or style of incident management, where it forced an entire generation into ICS. I remember the days when uh, we would do ICS training and everybody would be like, what are we doing? I don't understand. This doesn't make sense. I'm not doing this. And that seems so antiquated now. Now
I
it's so universally accepted that it's hard to believe if we were like that.
right.
Um,
We were talking about drills and exercises on the previous podcast that we just released, and we talked a little bit about ICS training. Um, I'll maybe get your take on this. I'm a little concerned as all the cutbacks are taking place at FEMA, that all the ICS training that FEMA provides is going to become unsupported. And what are we going to do after that? When the government was shut down, you couldn't get to you didn't have access to the online training courses for
Oh,
ICS
really?
100, 200. Yeah, all that was
Oh, I didn't
offline.
know that.
And they're
Oh,
laying off people right and left. So I'm not sure there's going to be any trainers left, or
well,
so what are
I
we going to
mean,
do?
that's a mistake, obviously, and I'm sure you'd agree with that. But it's one thing, direct response capability from FEMA, and if the intent is to push it down into the states or more local jurisdictions for them to manage those resources, but to give them the money to actually manage, we know for sure the problem. Okay, so FEMA was, oh God, where do I? You have to have some type of central authority. As much as we want to decentralize these systems, you do have to have some type of strong authority that's going to maintain that infrastructure that is common to everybody. This is the entire idea and the brilliance of ICS and emergency management as an actual profession or field. And it is frankly what the Coast Guard does probably the best, is that you can take a type 3, you know, uh, ops section chief and you could send me to Alabama and it would work, right? Even though I've never been there, I've never worked that type of response, I've never done whatever, and it works. It's like taking a Coast Guard boat crew from Florida to Alaska, putting them on the same boat type, and it works. You give them similar tools, a set of orders, and it just works. And the fear I would have in degrading uh, a, a, a national response framework is that we know that money doesn't actually flow down. It doesn't hit those tributaries like that. It doesn't work like that. If dollars are retained, in a less affluent community, it's going to go to road work and it's not going to go to emergency management. That's just because emergency management ends up being like this niche kind of luxury item when you're already in need, and then it's completely devastating when you don't have it. It's insurance. It's a bad idea. The fact that you can't get 101, or you can't get 701, or the 700 series online during a government shutdown is absolutely absurd. That's an own goal uh, type of scenario. So I didn't know that, but it's just hearing that, it's absolutely a horrible idea, in
Well,
my
the
opinion.
next disaster is coming. They always do,
Yeah, they are
and
always coming. Yeah,
they're always coming. Like Mount Rainier is considered the most dangerous volcano in the Cascades,
thanks.
and
Thanks for that, because I had nothing else to worry about today, but I appreciate that.
well, you're on Bainbridge Island, so the
I'm good to go.
Lahar was probably not going to it's not going to fill up Puget Sound.
Yeah,
But there are at least 80,000 people that are directly in the path
yeah.
of that ice and mudslide that's going to be coming down that mountain. And with its ice load, the Lahar, this fast moving basically river of debris, it's going to be huge and unstoppable. And so that's one problem. And then we've got the Cascadia subduction zone, right, which is what we refer to as the big one.
The big one.
And if it goes, it'll be a 9.2, 9.4 on the Richter scale, and it's basically going to decimate every coastal community on the coast of Washington and Oregon, and destroy infrastructure west of Interstate 5. And it's going to turn Seattle into a series of, I don't remember what the number is, like 40, 35 islands, all the bridges come down, and all of a sudden these communities are going to be isolated and, unable to leave, unable to, get supplies, all those kinds of things. And we know this is coming. We've been planning for this, but then you start degrading federal support. And when you've got budget problems like the state of Washington does, and I think I saw an article the other day about problems with three more of the Washington state ferries. When you've got those kinds of financial problems, putting money into emergency management, you're right, it starts to look like a luxury, right? It's like, if we're gonna rob from Peter to pay Paul, that one starts to look pretty juicy, and yet we know that the disaster is coming.
Well, when your house is on fire, you're not worried about your new floor and your baseboards. I mean, that's basically it. And I'm not equating emergency disaster management to that. I don't think of it. You don't think of it as a luxury. I think it's absolutely essential. But like, I think that's how a lot of people operate. It's especially if you're a marginalized community where you don't, the need is so great that I live on Bainbridge Island. This place is amazing. The emergency and disaster preparedness infrastructure I is award winning, like literally. And I didn't know this, and I don't have much to do with it. My wife is one of their volunteers on their medical staff, but it works. But this is also an affluent community and an island, already an island, obviously, and they have put in place things that are effective. They thought these things through, but you know, not everyone. The people who are going to be most affected directly and immediately, they tend to be the most vulnerable. They don't have that. And this, in my opinion, shouldn't be. We have an obligation to everybody who lives and works here. It's not just for, you know, luxury brand type. I don't know how to say it, but I think you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I did a
So,
podcast once with the Bainbridge Prepared
oh
uh,
yeah,
folks,
they're
and
good.
it was really good. Their whole plan, they recognize, especially in the summer, that the population on the island basically doubles during the day from all the tourists that come over to walk around in the town and stuff. And that one of the things that they are going to need to do is be able to, get those people back off the island when the ferry's not running. And they put together this really large, well managed volunteer flotilla to do exactly that. And they're working on pre designated ham radio frequencies for communications.
Yeah,
And, one of the people who's highly involved in this program, Tammy Allen, is
yeah,
one of
I know
my
Tim.
WSMC incident commanders. Um,
Oh, is she's still on board with y'all? I
yeah,
didn't
she's still on
know
board. Yeah. Yeah.
that. Yeah, she's fantastic
Yeah. Yeah. She was the harbor master there for what, 20
for a
years
long
or
time.
something. Yeah, for a long
Yeah,
time. But you start to realize, you start to look at these disasters. Like I was involved in like 2016 Cascadia Rising exercise. And what it taught me is that help's not coming. Not in the first 3 weeks anyway. We tell people generally to have, you know, 48 hours of, food and water or whatnot, but you need a month, in a month. And so you start to get involved a little bit more into emergency management preparedness outside of oil spill response. And you can't help but become a prepper a little bit. You just can't help it.
no, precisely. When I moved to Hawaii, um, they, you know, by introduction and onboarding, that's what they tell you. It's right in their packet. You know, throw that 3 day thing away, and it's 30 days. You got to self support for 30 days because they're so far at the end of the supply chain that we know it's an assumption. You know, it's that help's not coming, and I think that's probably far more realistic. I mean, we've seen it play out already, and I don't think it's getting better. I don't think this system is improving right now. Not,
Not for the big one, not
no,
for, if Cascadia happens, um, it'll be such over such a broad area with so much destruction and so many people needing rescue. I guess it would be kind of on a Katrina scale, but I think actually worse than that. And there just aren't enough search and rescue folks. It'll take, I think Bend, Oregon is designated as the FEMA setup area. It'll take a week just to start putting that boots on the ground infrastructure in place, and that's a week that
no,
somebody's going without electricity, is going without food and water resupply, is going without medicine, is going without all those kinds of things.
yeah,
I think it'll be a month before you can start to see any kind of restoration to the supply chain in any way. And the the all the initial resources are going to go into things like you know uh, refueling hospital emergency generators and stuff. That fuel is not going to be available to the general public. And
yeah,
so, whatever whatever it is that you need, you better have it now, because it's not gonna be there. And that's why I think it's great that the Marine Exchange has got, what, 10 days, you say, of fuel there.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
do you have a plan for what your continuity role might be when
Yeah.
these?
It's not written out, but it's one of the benefits, I think, of the Marine Exchange. There's a lot of strengths in the Marine Exchange in this, in that it's small. And for a while, I thought that was maybe not a good thing, that we needed to grow in terms of the amount of people, the amount, that. But uh, what that does for us is we're able to act very quickly, and do things that make sense, often without really much deciding and no permission. We just do them, at that level, and we saw that play out even during COVID, where we had to shut down parts of it. And I wasn't there for this. This is just what I hear. We had to, but our ops kept going and they kept coming in. So now what we have done is expanded that to where we can do things remotely, even from the operational and the watch floor perspective. Like we can, our AIS feed is now being backed up in the cloud. Our database is cloud-based, and we've got dual redundancies, um, to where we can access it locally or remotely. And I think and we just do it. Now technology exists to where it's not that expensive. But if you're looking at a huge bureaucracy, like the Coast Guard, like FEMA, like the state, things that really make sense and are actually not difficult or expensive, we can at least try, and then build it out, a more robust infrastructure. And we've done that. So we could run our watch remotely from basically anywhere if we needed to. We can do that. And I think That's a huge benefit. So even beyond the generator, it's like, well, that doesn't work. Maybe you can't even get into our office for whatever reason. We could still uh, do things uh, basically with just an internet connection. Now, I wish it was, there's more we could do um, with a modest amount of funding. We could do better, but we have a very good, I guess, infrastructure, operational infrastructure that is mobile. Yeah, it's it's actually really cool. That's something we did very intentionally and continue to do. We spent a lot of time these past couple years really deliberately thinking about both operations and then also administration. We're like a hybrid workforce, even though we have a 24/7 watch. It's just easier to maintain that watch in that office. But like I said, we don't necessarily have to. We've had Neil take things over, our ops manager, remotely from his house, when it was necessary and it worked. So I like that. That's pretty cool. I don't think the Coast Guard could do that right now. Well, I know they
No,
can't. So
no, they
and
can't.
that's not a I want to be clear that that has nothing to do with our local Coast Guard, like our local sector. It's not it's not on them. This is an outcome of bureaucracy. And it kind of goes back to this FEMA bureaucracy, and maybe that was the original intent, was to drive it further down. But, as one of these operational backups, it's not like I've seen federal dollars flow into the Marine Exchange to support these networks. What would cost the federal government $17 million and we could do for 100,000. I haven't seen any diversion of
Right,
federal grant money come towards this. So that, I mean, I guess it's a bias, but it's real. It's not like it's like, hey, let's take a look at, you know, um, emergency management systems and let's put more resources where it makes sense. And that I can get behind. But, as the executive director of one of these types of operational, um, it's that part's not easy. So it's like, well, you may have eliminated or started to eliminate um, bigger centralized bureaucratic institutions, but I don't see the flow, and I don't see the flow with my peers around the country either. So, without the two going like this, then all you're doing is eliminating what you have or weakening it.
right.
So,
Talking about your peers, we're going to see them all
mm,
in March, right?
yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, no, for
You,
sure. We definitely, so you're talking about the National Harbor Safety Conference, March 24th through the 26th. We've been working super hard on that for a long time. And we have a conference and it's going to sell out. Like I'm looking at what's remaining. And I went like 2 months ago during the shutdown or whatever. I was concerned. My main concern was like, are we even going to be doing this? Like, is this, I was getting kind of fearful about the fate of this conference because we had done so much work and invested so much into it. But now my anxiety has shifted to what happens when this thing sells out because I'm convinced it's going to, just looking at uh, the registration that's rolling in right now. And I'm a little concerned that we're not going to be able to accommodate everybody who should probably be there. So if you're hearing this, my message is register because it's going really fast, faster than I anticipated.
I'm looking forward to it. As
I am too.
right,
Yeah,
it's
and you're going to be a panel moderator
yeah, panel moderator for a
for marine
topic that
firefighting.
yeah, that I'm really passionate about these
Yeah.
days, having responded to three shipboard fires in the last 5 years. Never in my whole career, even while I was sailing,
Yeah.
even when I was at sea, I never fought an actual ship fire. I went to firefighting school time and
Yeah.
again. I went to the Navy's flight deck firefighting school. I went through, basic and advanced firefighting school for my mate and master's license and all of that. But I never actually had to fight a real fire. And then 3 ship fires come along in the last 3 years, and uh, the statistics are real on ship fires are really interesting. They're up 20% worldwide year over year over the last several years. And they're working their way up
Hmm.
towards being in the top 3 leading causes of maritime incidents. It's always been, collisions or groundings.
Grounding. Yeah.
That's the big thing.
Yeah.
But now, ship fires. Mark Curtis, frequent guest on the podcast, friend of the pod, sent me an article just the other day from a National Transportation Safety Board investigation where uh, the lithium ion battery in a handheld radio, just sitting in a charger on the bridge of a
Yeah.
tanker, ignited. And even that small battery thermal runaway, they couldn't put it out. And the
Yeah.
entire bridge of the ship was completely consumed.
Wow.
And, it's lucky it didn't spread even farther than that.
It's it's almost like you know, the lithium ion battery. Well, they're everywhere. They're ubiquitous in our society right now, and for good reason. It's a marvel of technology, but it's become like the new oily rags, you
Right.
know, to look out for and prepare. But man, I don't know. It's not as easy as oily rags to
Right.
mitigate.
Right. Well,
That so I can tell you the interest in that panel, I think, is at the top for the harbor safety conference. That there's a lot of interest, and for good reason, and everything you just cited. But there's anxiety at the port level throughout the world, really, of what to do about this, because again, it's becoming increasingly common, and everyone recognizes that it's a difficult problem. You're really good at this. This is why you're the moderator and not me. But I think it's so important to have that group of people, and the group that we've assembled is world class. And honestly, I'm sure I'm biased here, but for me, that's going to be the highlight. I remember I've listened to that pod that you did. I don't, time has little meaning for me anymore, but a year ago, who knows? But where you had a bunch of national experts come on. I listened to it twice,
was it the
and
one where we were talking about the NTSB findings
yes,
from the Grand Costa D'Avorio?
yeah,
So we
yeah.
had Bill Burkett
Bill Burkett was there,
from the
yeah.
Port of Virginia.
Oh, and you had
He'll be on the panel.
yeah,
We had Jim Elliott,
Humiliant, yeah.
who is I
Todd
want to
Duke,
say Todd Duke with Resolve.
yeah.
Jim Elliott's with TNT
Oh, and
Salvage.
then you had Aaron, right? From
We had
Seattle?
Aaron Patterson, a lieutenant
Yeah.
from Seattle Fire, and we had
He-
Captain Noah Katka from Seattle
That's
Fire
right. Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
And some of those people are actually on this upcoming panel,
Yep.
right? Bill Burkett and Aaron Patterson are on the panel. Um, and I thought Jim Elliott was, but I think it's somebody else from TNT Salvage now
Oh,
that's on
really?
the panel.
Okay.
I'm not positive.
Okay.
Um, but we're gonna also be talking on the panel about the really unique things that are happening in this space in preparedness here in the Pacific Northwest. We've done some really interesting things. WSMC's tabletop exercise last year was for a ship fire event where we did a first of its kind formation of a unified command that included uh, deputy chief from Seattle Fire, and we had great Coast Guard support. We had the captain of the port, Captain
Yeah.
McDonald, and we had the um, head of Washington State Department of Ecology's spills program response section lead, Dave Byers.
Mm.
So we had the real people.
Here in the Pacific Northwest, I do think, and I don't know why exactly, but I'm sure it has to do with personality and leadership and experience, but has taken a bit of a lead role in this. It's a niche problem, but it's a huge problem, and
Seattle
it's not
fires
going
all
away, and it's inevitable. So that's why, honestly, Dan, when we had the opportunity to bring this conference here to Seattle, this was on my mind because I was on a panel in Chicago with Jim Elliott, and this was right after that incident in New Jersey, and we had the captain of the port on that panel as well, and it was represented there. We talked about that incident, but we talked about others. We sort of we put that into this, kind of response package. And, harbor safety is very prevention oriented, but preparedness is part of that as well. And we both know it's like this. You can't have really one without the other, and it's so together that I don't know. To me, they just resemble each other. It's going to be a lot of the same people and talking in the same language and stuff like that. So that's not very controversial. But at the end of that, I remember it's like, well, this definitely needs to elevate. And when I rogered up on taking this conference, and that's 2 years ago, will be 2 years ago this spring. That was a focus. So, and just knowing you, knowing others in the community, I thought, well, this is going to be a big feature event. The impact of this kind of thing, it's happening enough to where people are predictably and rightfully freaked out.
No, I think that's right, and I think we're getting a lot of support here in the Pacific
Yeah.
Northwest. I
Well,
mean,
the other
Seattle
thing,
Fire support has been amazing
amazing.
and amazing,
They
and
take it
and
seriously. They're doing things. And again, we can go back to where we started. I mean, are the resources flowing towards this to Seattle Fire? No,
no,
not that I
no,
know of. They're doing in my opinion, just an outstanding job. But it's very personality driven. I don't think they have the resources for it. I wish they did, and I would like to rededicate myself to that. One thing, and I'm sure you're thinking of it, but we haven't said it, is MFSA in Portland has a model that is going to be very interesting to people, and it's unique. But what is different is that was a very bottom up state approach to creating that organization as a result of an incident on the Columbia River a long time ago versus what we're trying to do or have been trying to do is probably more top down, where it's like, hey, we see the threat, we see the vulnerability, we would like to preemptively start to shore this thing up with lots of different ideas and some resource asks and stuff like that that we haven't gotten filled yet. But we recognize that it'd be much better to get out ahead of this problem than it would be to see anything tragic or incredibly expensive happen here locally, and then go back, do the analysis, and start to build a program that way. So I'm hoping the intent to get this front and center. And by the way, when we brought this up during the planning, there was zero pushback. It was like, oh yeah, we're doing this. Um, my intent with the planning is, to rattle a cage and to try and honestly shake loose some resources here locally to fund things, fund programs that are going to really pay dividends in the future. I believe it. Even if nothing happens, I still believe in um, resourcing these things appropriately and having at least a suitable foundation, which, we don't have. We have a lot of volunteerism, and I think that's fantastic, but it's too much. This is why the stuff like the Harbor, National Harbor Safety Conference, and I know I get that I'm promoting it, but it's why we're doing it. It's why we do these things.
Yeah,
Is
that's why we do
because
them.
if you can get, whatever, 35 sector commanders and waterways managers and industry people to just sit down, it starts, and if we can agree on some baseline things and agree on the problems, then locally we can start to shore these things up, piece by piece, and most importantly to me is like build the relationships and then dedicate ourselves to a future.
Anything more you want to say about the Harbor Safety Conference? Any other panels before we stop talking? Anything else of
I think
interest?
there's 10 different, not all of them are panels. We broke it up a little bit. I should have this all memorized. I don't, but it's on our website, but I think, yeah, there's 10 different topics. Most of them are panels, not all of them. And we spent a lot of time with the national steering team coming up with this. Uh, if Noelle Jones ends up listening to this long ass podcast, I want to give her a shout out. Shout out. She's unbelievable and in organizing this and helping this team, and really dedicated to providing as much value for as many people as possible. So check it out. The agenda is rock solid and very worthwhile, and we've attracted an impressive audience already, and speakers are great. And I'm super excited to have this in Seattle, and it's going to sell out. So if you're still
So
listening to
register.
this,
Get out there and
I
register.
would register.
Get a
I'm really
hotel. Book your
concerned.
hotel room too, man. You're gonna want to.
Yeah, no, and we didn't do blocks. We didn't because of government shutdown, and we're small. I can't. It's hard for us to put $75,000 on a room block without certain guarantees. But it doesn't seem to matter. We did negotiate with the Edgewater for a reduced rate. They've been fantastic to us. So you got the Edgewater right next door, and then you got, what is it, the one
It's the
across
Marriott
the
waterfront right
Marriott?
across the
Yeah,
street, which is where
yeah.
I'm staying. Because after Deepwater Horizon, I became Marriott
Oh, Ben.
Platinum
Oh, okay.
for life. I'm Platinum for life, and so I'm locked in.
Yeah, yeah. We didn't do room blocks mostly because of the expense for the ring exchange, but doesn't seem to matter, at least what I've heard.
Yeah,
So,
come hang out. Maybe we'll record a podcast there. We'll do it right in the
um,
lobby of the Marriott or something.
yeah, I'm
Yeah.
gonna, you know what?
You can set
I'm
up your
gonna reserve
booth.
my room. I'm gonna reserve my room because I'm not coming back to Bainbridge Island. I'm
Okay.
just staying there the whole time. because I'll be working the whole time. So I don't want
Yeah.
to even mess with ferries or anything like that.
Yeah, no, I'm staying. I'm going to stay right there at the
I'm
Marriott. I
staying.
already booked my rooms.
Okay,
I'll be.
I might do that today. So
Yeah, you totally should stay there.
okay,
We'll have a group together.
it'll be
It's
fun, man.
it's
I'm so looking forward to it. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be awesome. And yeah, it's gonna be great for Seattle and our community. So I'm so stoked. And people at the Marine Exchange have done so much work. And there's more to come, but I we've done a lot of prep. Like we've done it right. So I'm like, all right, this is gonna be great.
So are you going to set up your, and you got that great podcast booth set up at the Marine Exchange? Are you going to set it up at the conference at your booth?
Should we? I don't
Yeah,
know.
I think you
Think
totally
so?
should. Yeah.
Yeah, we've got the whole, yeah, we're mobile. We're highly, we went to Olympia.
So I can use it.
Yeah, use it. Yeah, maybe okay, let's do it. Let's decide right now.
Wismic's going to have a booth. Let's put our booths right next to each other, and then we'll put the podcast
Cool,
thing
let's do
rig
it.
there, and
We
we'll
got
drag
our
people
entire,
in, and we'll do interviews.
okay. Yeah, yeah, we can do that. And then, I mean, we got our footprint down to one clear plastic bin. We can do podcasting in that and tear it down and set it up fast. Sarah's gotten really good at it. So,
Good, perfect. That'd be awesome.
yeah.
All right, man.
Okay.
Well, I'm going to let you go. It's been
Cool, man.
thanks for taking the time on
No,
this
thank you, Dan.
Sunday morning. This was great.
Yeah. I mean, we don't stop. So,
No, I don't
even though
even
it's Sunday, we're dedicated to the craft.
Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. What's the difference? It's all you do what you
I
need to
don't
do
care.
when you
It's
need
all
to
the
do
same
it.
to me. It's just life. So,
That's me too. Me too, man. All right, everybody,
all right.
we're out. We'll see you at the National Harbor Safety Conference.
Yeah. All right. I appreciate you, Dan.
This episode of the Tactics Meeting is brought to you in part by Gallagher Marine Systems. Gallagher Marine Systems is the industry's most comprehensive source of full-service, in-depth compliance support.
And by the Washington State Maritime Cooperative, the only nonprofit umbrella plan holder dedicated to oil spill readiness for commercial vessels operating in Puget Sound and the Greater Salish Sea. Formed in partnership with Washington State in 1995 to protect these waters, WSMC has long stood at the intersection of maritime response and environmental protection, supporting safe commerce while safeguarding the coastlines we all depend on. Learn more at wismiccoop.org.